CTHON. Is it CTHON? Or is it CTHON? CHTHON? Whatever it is, it's a fun little game, inspired by retro first-person shooters and infused with a dose of RPG and procedural generation. The game was first released on itch.io in December of 2016, right at the very end of the year, and 3 months later it made an appearance over on Steam. The project comes from a one-man studio that went by the name of Graffiti Games, but has since changed names to Orb Weaver Studios. The team doubled in size, from 1 to 2 fine gentlemen, and has since started working on a new game called Ruin, although the project is currently on hold due to real-life issues getting in the way. I know how that feels. But for now, let's talk CTHON. It's the 24th century, and humanity has begun to explore the universe beyond our solar system. You're one of the unfortunate sods working for a mining corporation called Sigma Corp, and you just happened to be on the wrong place at the wrong time. Magnetic interference screwed up your ship's control systems, and you end up crashing into Pythos, a horribly mismanaged colony where things went tits up. You're far away from home, and there's no choice but to scavenge the alien technology laying around, and to find a way to escape without going bananas, because some evil force lies deep within the colony, and it's calling for you. It's a very simple setup, and the little plot that the game does have is told exclusively through text dumps between each sector. The plot takes a backseat to the gameplay and atmosphere, and that's fine, because they tell plenty of stories on their own. CTHON is a roguelike FPS of the die permanently and lose everything variety. You start by picking one of 3 classes, each focused on one of the game's 3 weapons. Marksman is the ranged specialist, starting with a more powerful cannon and more ammo. Berserker is focused on melee, with higher HP, movement speed, and physical damage. And finally, Sapper starts with more grenades and a stronger grenade launcher to use them with. Then you get dumped into the first of 3 sectors, each one packed with 3 levels, and if you survive them, you have one last level with the final boss. The catch is that the layout for each level is completely randomized, and so are the items and enemies found in them. What you find is what you get for that run. No refunds. Scattered throughout the levels are the expected health and ammo pickups, but more important are the mods. Unlike some other roguelike games, this one doesn't have any permanent upgrades, and you don't gain experience points or unlock new skills. Instead, your abilities grow from equipping items called mods. Some will enhance your basic stats, like higher maximum HP or damage, while others will modify the way that your weapons function. The cannon is the main example, because it starts as a simple single-shot weapon, but with mods it can be made to fire multiple projectiles, and to have said projectiles pierce through enemies. All of this can be very useful, since it doesn't spend extra ammo, and the level layouts always have a lot of corridors, so you have plenty of opportunities to hit multiple enemies. These upgrades also dynamically change how your weapons look, which is pretty cool and helps give some variety to a very tiny arsenal. But nothing in life is free. Every mod requires 1 point of energy, and that's where the character building comes in. You start out with very limited inventory space and very limited energy, so keep your eyes peeled for inventory and energy upgrades, so that you can carry and equip a bigger number of mods. As long as you have enough energy, there are no restrictions. Equip nothing but damage boosts if you want, or stack HP bonuses and try tanking everything, or experiment with whatever the game gives you. When life gives you lemons, make roasted alien. Yes, there is a significant element of luck to the gameplay. It is absolutely true that you can get screwed over through no fault of your own, and that sucks. But the gameplay is so simple and basic that it usually doesn't feel unfair. In the long run, your starting class doesn't make a big difference in how you build your character, since all 3 classes have the exact same weapons and can use the same items. It's all about the upgrades you pick, but you're not juggling 50 different elemental resistances or praying for special attacks that clear entire rooms. You're just making your pew-pew more pew-pewer, and enemies are all very dumb in terms of AI. There's also ways of combating the randomization through buying specific upgrades with the nanites that can be found on the ground or acquired by scrapping mods you don't want. Of course, the appearance of the machines that provide these functions is entirely up to luck too, but they aren't terribly uncommon. As long as you explore the levels, you will find at least a couple at some point. A full playthrough is also very short, lasting between 40 to maybe 60 minutes at most, so dying isn't too frustrating. You don't lose hours of progress or super rare equipment, just maybe 30 minutes of your life. If you have the time to watch this video, you have time to give it a run. But this randomization isn't all negatives. It's where the fun/horror comes from. There's always a choice you can make when you find the portal to the next level. You can advance right away with less resources, or you can search around the rest of the level in search of more items, but potentially putting yourself in harm's way. Every unexplored room is a chance to score something useful, but also a chance to start the next level in worse condition. Sometimes it's exactly what you wanted, sometimes it's the opposite and you just have to roll with it. Life's tough, get a helmet. The game's soundscape does a good job at building an oppressive atmosphere with the sound effects and the subdued guitar strings. But the scariest part is that you don't know what's in the next room. It's a special kind of horror that only interactive media like video games can provide, because it comes directly from gameplay rather than from creepy imagery or sounds. Sometimes not actively trying to scare the player can be the most scary thing a game can do. It comes from the anxiety you feel when you're down to single-digit health and any mistake will likely be your last, and the randomization makes it particularly effective. On that next room, there could be health and ammo, there could be useful upgrades, or there could be a horde of monsters. That's the good side of randomization. Now let's talk about the suck. The influence that luck has on a run is in itself influenced by how well balanced every tool available to the player is. And that's the big fault with the gameplay. Some upgrades are just better than others. I mentioned that you shouldn't worry too much about which class you pick, but the reality is that you should just pick Marksman so you can get a leg up on the cannon, which is easily the superior weapon. Grenades are powerful, but have very limited ammunition, and melee is unfortunately a total crapshoot due to how enemy attacks work. Instead of having a proper wind-up, enemy melee hits nearly instantly the moment they are in range, leaving you with basically no chance to get a melee attack in and then get out of range. The most dangerous enemies all have ranged attacks too, and melee mods are limited to damage and attack speed, so there's nothing that increases its range or turns it into a different attack altogether. You're stuck with that slow poke and that's it. This doesn't mean that the Berserker class is totally useless. The higher HP and movement speed are nice, but the improved melee is rendered useless since melee attacks just aren't worth using. The class system would be more interesting if there were class-exclusive perks that would push the player to focus on each one's specialization, rather than just being a choice of starting stats. Alternatively, instead of fixed classes, you could instead get some points to distribute among the stats you want. This is just an observation, but I find that beginner difficulty tends to be more fun than standard and hardcore, simply because the difficulty also changes the amount of items you find, and more quickly gets you up to speed playing around with the mod system. The sound design also has an unfortunate problem, which is how enemies only have two sounds. One for when they detect you, and one for when they attack. They make no sound when walking around, and whenever multiple enemies are in the same room, each sound gets blurred together into soup. This can result in cheap shots, and in turn it can lead to cheap deaths. It's a shame, because an element of spatial awareness that rewards people with sharp ears would be a great fit for a game like this. Speaking of cheap deaths, those rare moments when you do get screwed over are not cool. There was one playthrough where I barely found any ammunition for the cannon or the launcher during the last sector, and the saving grace was that the final boss is a total pushover to kill with melee if you're careful. Before closing this video, I would also like to nitpick the visuals. The game runs internally at 640 by 480, but running it in full screen scales it to your monitor's resolution, and there's no option to preserve the game's original 4:3 aspect ratio. It also looks a bit blurry, probably because it's using a basic bilinear filter, which tarnishes the game's pixelated art style. Anyway, that's CTHON. It has some annoyances, but overall I do think it's worth a look, thanks to its nice artwork and its oppressive atmosphere. A full playthrough is very short, but with 3 classes, 3 difficulties, and a dose of randomization, there's value in replaying it. It's also hard to argue when I bought it for 80 cents on sale. That's not bang for buck, that's a whole bombardment.